Lawyers. When did a narcissist lose it all? Because they assumed everyone else was as stupid as they were arrogant? I'm not a lawyer, but I worked as a court clerk for over a decade, and I've sat through some real circus acts. One in particular, it still gets brought up at staff dinners. We call it the trial of Travis Alden. Travis was a financial consultant with a six-figure wardrobe, an ego that could eclipse the sun, and the kind of smile that made you feel like you were being sold a timeshare. He walked into our courtroom like it was a TED Talk, not a custody hearing. His ex-wife, Dana, was the total opposite. Quiet, measured, a second-grade teacher who showed up in a cardigan and looked like she had cried in the parking lot. The kind of woman you'd assume gave him everything in the divorce just to avoid confrontation. But you'd be wrong, because Dana came in armed. Not with lawyers or fury, but with receipts. See, Travis had filed for full custody of their daughter, Mia. Claimed Dana was emotionally unstable and incompetent. He said she was alienating him, manipulating Mia, and couldn't support their daughter financially because she chose crayons over capital. His exact words. He loved to quote himself. The whole case hinged on his claim that Dana had orchestrated a false CPS report against him to ruin his reputation and sway the court. He even brought in a therapist of his choosing, one who'd seen Mia twice and was ready to testify that Dana's influence had distorted the child's perception. The judge, a sharp woman with zero tolerance for dramatics, nodded through Travis's polished speech. She let him paint his shiny version of reality. Meanwhile, Dana sat quietly, flipping through a neatly labeled binder. Then it was her turn. Dana stood up, adjusted her glasses, and said, "Your Honor, I'd like to submit Exhibits A through Q." Travis laughed. Actually laughed, like she'd shown up with crayon drawings. But the courtroom got real quiet when the bailiff brought over the documents. Emails, screenshots, voice recordings, photos, a calendar marked with times and dates, phone logs, therapy records from Mia's actual counselor, one not chosen by Travis. Then she said the words that made my skin crawl. "This is a record of all the times Mr. Alden has attempted to coach our daughter on what to say to the court." You could feel the tension shift. She played a recording of Travis's voice, saying things like, "You tell them mommy yells at you when I'm not around, okay? Say she drinks at night. That she makes you sleep in the basement. Got it? I'll get you that new iPad if you do it." The judge raised an eyebrow but didn't interrupt. Dana continued. Calm. Methodical. She produced the report from CPS, the one he claimed was false. It turned out it was anonymous. But the investigation had been closed as unfounded, and the social worker had noted that the father had been unusually aggressive and more concerned with clearing his name than the child's well-being. Dana then submitted a text exchange. Travis had accidentally sent her a message meant for someone else. It said, "Once I have full custody, she'll be irrelevant. I'll drain her dry in court and laugh while she panics." He tried to interject. That was taken out of context. The judge replied coldly, "Oh? What is the context for that?" Travis flushed. "It was a joke." Dana didn't flinch. "I also have context." She scrolled to the messages before and after. The full thread made it worse. Travis had mapped out his plan to bankrupt Dana with legal fees. He joked about planting ideas in Mia's head and referred to the judge, the very same one in the room, as just another overpaid referee. The judge leaned. "You do realize these are admissible as evidence under spoliation and malicious intent?" He smirked. "I'm not worried. I know how this game works." That's when Dana pulled her final move of the day. She calmly stated, "Your Honor, my counsel will be submitting a motion to have Mr. Alden undergo a psychiatric evaluation based on evidence of coercive behavior, verbal abuse, and narcissistic manipulation, all of which are documented." Travis lost it. He stood up, raised his voice, and said, "This is character assassination. She's a nobody. I built this family. I made her who she is." The judge struck her gavel. "Mr. Alden, sit down." He didn't. "I will not be painted as the villain. She's a vindictive little worm who got lucky with a school job. She's nothing without me." "Bailiff," the judge said, "Mr. Alden is in contempt." That's how we ended day one. Dana walked out of the courtroom without a word. Travis was escorted out, still shouting about how the system rewards weaklings. But, the system hadn't even started with him yet. The next morning, Travis returned to court with a fresh suit, a tighter smile, and a new lawyer. Not his usual silver fox Harvard graduate type. This guy was younger, cockier, and clearly under the impression that courtroom theatrics worked better than facts. Dana was already seated, flanked by her calm older attorney who looked like she'd won wars with just her eyebrows. I heard her whisper to Dana, "Just breathe." He's about to bury himself. And boy, did he. Travis's new lawyer came out swinging. He tried to paint Dana as a controlling ex with an emotional vendetta, accused her of staging the recordings, said the texts were forged using AI. Yes, AI, in a custody case. He said Dana was on a personal crusade to ruin a man simply because she couldn't keep him. The judge gave him the same look my mom gave me when I tried to explain how I accidentally broke a window at 13. Then Travis was called to the stand. His lawyer prepped him like he was about to win an Oscar. Travis smiled at the jury, crossed his legs, and launched into a speech about how hard it was to be a high-achieving man in a world that punishes ambition. He claimed Dana weaponized femininity and played the victim like it was her job. He used words like hysterical and manipulative multiple times. Then came cross-examination. Dana's lawyer approached slowly, holding a single manila folder. Mr. Alden, are you familiar with the app Find My iPhone? Yes. And you used it to track your daughter's iPad, correct? Yes. Did you also use it to monitor Ms. Alden's location after your separation? Travis hesitated. It's possible. I wanted to ensure Mia was safe. Yet the iPad was registered to your account, not your daughter's. And the location history shows you accessed it over 40 times in 1 month, even during times when Mia was not in your custody. Would you say that's for safety or surveillance? Travis shifted in his seat. You're twisting it. Am I? Let's look at Exhibit R. She held up a screenshot. Travis's login on Dana's iPad at 1:37 a.m. on a Saturday. Dana had been staying with her sister that night. You also called Ms. Alden 43 times that week and sent over 100 texts, many of which are included here, and include phrases like, "You can't hide from me," and "I always know where you are." Would you like to explain those? Travis leaned in and said with a sneer, "She was provoking me. By living her life, she took my daughter. She's poisoning her against me." The lawyer tilted her head. So your response was to digitally stalk her, pressure your daughter to lie, and refer to the judge as an overpaid referee in writing? Travis opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Then came the moment none of us saw coming. Dana's attorney said, "Let's discuss the incident from October 4th. Travis paled. That was resolved. Resolved how? Charges were dropped. Actually, Mr. Alden, they weren't dropped. They were dismissed without prejudice, which means they can be reopened. Would you like to tell the court why you were arrested that night? His lawyer stood. Objection. Irrelevant to the current matter. The judge shook her head. Overruled. Answer the question. Travis clenched his jaw. It was a misunderstanding. Dana exaggerated. Dana spoke, barely above a whisper. You broke into my house, Travis. He shot back. It was my house, too. I paid the mortgage. You weren't living there. The restraining order was already filed. The judge tapped her gavel. Enough. Mr. Alden, you are now under oath. Did you or did you not enter Ms. Alden's home without permission? He didn't answer. His lawyer whispered furiously to him, but Travis just stared ahead, rigid. Dana's lawyer continued. We have doorbell cam footage, timestamps, and a 911 recording. Would you like the court to hear it? Travis suddenly turned to the judge and said, I want to settle. Silence. The judge asked, Are you saying you wish to settle this custody case out of court? He nodded. Joint custody. 50-50. I just want to move on. Dana looked at her lawyer, confused. The lawyer shook her head and said quietly, This isn't generosity. It's panic. And she was right. Travis wasn't settling to be kind. He was trying to stop what was coming next. Because the next file in that folder, it had police transcripts, bank statements, and testimony from a woman named Kendra Lee, a name Travis wasn't expecting to hear in that courtroom. But oh, he would. And the whole mask would fall off. He didn't flinch, but you could see his jaw lock up, that carefully manicured facade cracking ever so slightly. His lawyer looked confused, leaned in to whisper something, but Travis just shook his head like a man trying to contain a storm behind his eyes. The judge, curious, asked, Ms. Alden's counsel, who is Kendra Lee? Dana's lawyer smiled, not smugly, just with the quiet confidence of someone who's been waiting for this question. She is Mr. Alden's former executive assistant at Fletcher Wolf Financial. She submitted a sworn affidavit 2 weeks ago. We've also subpoenaed her HR records and digital correspondence with Mr. Alden, some of which were deleted from his account but not hers. Travis immediately spoke up. This has nothing to do with custody. The judge replied, Mr. Alden, if it pertains to your character, credibility, or treatment of others in your care, it's very relevant. Kendra's affidavit was extensive, detailed, and devastating. She had worked for Travis for 2 years. At first, he was demanding but charismatic. But once Dana filed for separation, Kendra said Travis became erratic, using the office like a war room, drafting plans to ruin Dana in court and manipulate the optics. He even asked Kendra to find dirt on Dana, social media posts, past friends, anything that could be twisted into a narrative of instability. Kendra refused. That's when he turned on her. She was demoted. Her workload doubled. Private texts from her phone, messages she had exchanged with her boyfriend, were printed out and left on her desk with sarcastic notes in Travis's handwriting. She filed a complaint with HR. 2 days later, she was fired for performance issues. The kicker? Travis bragged about it in a group chat to 2 male colleagues. That chat log, retrieved from one of the phones during the legal discovery, had lines like, "Kendra got brave. Had to remind her I own her paycheck. Nothing teaches loyalty like fear. One more woman thinking she's smarter than me." Dana's lawyer paused. "We'd also like to submit this email as Exhibit U." It was from Travis to a friend. The subject line, collateral damage. The body of the email read, "If I have to burn a few bridges to get Mia, I will." Dana's too emotional to play the long game. Kendra thought she could She got what she deserved. Travis started to unravel. He slammed his palm against the table. "This is character assassination." "No," the judge said coldly. "This is a pattern." Dana remained silent, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her face didn't change, but I saw her thumb rubbing a nervous little circle into her own wrist. She was holding on. The judge turned to Travis. "Mr. Alden, do you dispute that you wrote these emails?" He hesitated. "That was private communication. Do you dispute that you wrote them?" He exhaled through his nose. "No." "Good. Then let's move on." The next part was even worse for Travis. Dana's lawyer revealed that Travis had another pending civil suit, this one from a former client at his firm, who accused him of intentionally mismanaging funds. She submitted a deposition from the plaintiff, a widowed woman in her 60s who had trusted Travis with her late husband's pension. Turns out, Travis had encouraged her to invest in a real estate venture. What he didn't disclose was that he was a silent partner in that venture, and it went belly up. The widow lost over $180,000. Travis? He walked away with a consulting fee just shy of $20,000. When questioned in that deposition, Travis had said, "She should have read the fine print. I didn't hold a gun to her head." The courtroom gasped. Travis tried to laugh it off. That was taken out of context. The judge had heard enough. She called for a 10-minute recess. The bailiff opened the door, and as people filed out, Travis finally lost his cool. He turned to Dana and hissed, "This is how you win? By dragging everyone down with you?" Dana didn't flinch. She whispered, "No, this is how I survive." And for the first time in the trial, Travis had nothing to say. After the recess, the courtroom returned to a tight, coiled silence. The gallery was packed now, some from other cases, others from the courthouse staff who'd quietly slipped in. Everyone could sense we were watching a man implode in real time. Travis walked in 5 minutes late. His tie was loosened. His lawyer looked like he had just aged 10 years. Dana was already seated, still calm, still collected, like she'd made peace with whatever storm was coming next. The judge resumed with a heavy sigh and asked Dana's attorney, "Do you have anything further before we resume Mr. Alden's cross-examination?" "We do, Your Honor. One last matter, Mr. Alden's financial disclosures." Travis tensed, because while he had provided documentation to the court, a modest spreadsheet, a few PDF bank statements, and one laughably vague tax return, Dana's team had quietly subpoenaed additional records, real ones. "Mr. Alden," the lawyer began, "you listed your income as $118,000 annually, correct?" "Yes." "And you claimed your assets included a leased Audi, a condo still under mortgage, and approximately $14,000 in savings." "That's right." "Would you like to explain then how you wired $40,000 to a Cayman Islands account under the name Westfield Consulting LLC just 3 months ago?" Dead silence. Dana didn't blink. The judge slowly turned her eyes toward Travis. His lawyer looked like he might physically melt into the chair. "That's business," Travis muttered. "It's part of a consulting operation I run on the side, which was never disclosed in your financial affidavit to this court." "I didn't think it was relevant." Dana's lawyer didn't need to say a thing. The judge handled it for her. "Mr. Alden, this is a custody case, but perjury regarding financial records can trigger criminal referral. I strongly suggest you consult with your attorney before saying anything further. Travis turned to his lawyer. They whispered furiously. The judge waited, unimpressed. Then Dana's attorney delivered the final blow. We also have confirmation from the IRS that Mr. Alden's 2021 and 2022 returns are under review for failure to report income from offshore sources. This came to light because he attempted to write off family court legal fees as corporate losses from a shell company. Travis tried to speak, then stopped. His lawyer didn't say a word. He looked defeated. Let the record show, the judge said, that Mr. Alden may face future charges unrelated to this proceeding. For now, we will proceed with the custody matter and weigh all documentation presented. And then, almost mercifully, the judge turned to Dana. Ms. Alden, are you still pursuing sole custody, or are you open to joint? Dana looked up. Her voice was steady but soft. I was never trying to take Mia from her father, but I can't trust him not to use her as a weapon. I just want her to be safe, to grow up without feeling like she's being traded for leverage. The judge nodded. I'll need a final day for deliberation and a custody evaluator's report. In the meantime, I am ordering a temporary protective order. No contact between Mr. Alden and Ms. Alden outside of court-supervised settings. Exchange of the child is to be done via neutral third party only. Travis finally cracked. He stood up and said loudly, This is bulls. You're falling for her tears. She's manipulating all of you. I've built everything. I make the money. I should have control. The judge banged the gavel. Mr. Alden, sit down. One more outburst and I will hold you in contempt again. He sat, fuming, sweating, grinding his teeth like he could chew through the floor. Then Dana said something that didn't appear in any transcript, but I remember it clear as day. She whispered, barely audible, You always thought no one would believe me, but you made it easy. The judge called for adjournment. The next court date was set for 2 weeks later. As people filed out, a reporter waiting in the hallway tried to snap a picture of Travis. He shoved the camera aside. Security had to step in. Dana? She walked out into the spring light and hugged her sister waiting outside. I saw her finally cry. Not in fear, not in anger, but in relief. And yet, this story was far from over, because there was still a custody evaluation coming, a therapist's deep dive into what Mia had been put through, and that would expose the worst secret of all. 2 weeks passed before the next hearing, and in that time, the custody evaluator, a licensed clinical psychologist named Dr. Melinda Reyes, completed her court-ordered assessment. Now, if you've never seen one of these unfold in court, let me explain something. Custody evaluations are often slow, clinical, sometimes dull. This one was none of that. Dr. Reyes walked into the courtroom with a presence that immediately quieted the gallery. She wore no-nonsense glasses, carried 2 heavy files, and had the composure of someone who'd seen everything and wasn't easily impressed. She was sworn in, reviewed her credentials, and then opened with this. I have completed evaluations for over 300 custody cases, and this one stands out. Not because of the conflict between the parties, but because of the psychological pressure placed upon the child. Travis didn't blink. He leaned back in his chair like this was just another box being checked. But Dana was frozen, because she knew what was coming. Dr. Reyes went on. She had conducted individual interviews with both parents, sessions with Mia, observations during parental visits, and psychological testing. Her conclusion? Mr. Alden displays classic narcissistic personality traits, grandiosity, lack of empathy, need for admiration, and an inability to accept responsibility for his actions. His interaction with his daughter reflects these patterns. He views her not as a child with emotional needs, but as a tool in a campaign to win against Ms. Alden. The courtroom went dead silent. Dana's eyes welled with tears. Travis actually smirked. Objection, his attorney said. This is opinion, not fact. The judge replied, Dr. Reyes is a licensed evaluator appointed by the court. Continue. And continue she did. She detailed a visit where Travis spent the entire hour interrogating Mia about her mother's habits, who visited the house, whether Dana ever said bad things about him. When Mia cried, he told her, Stop being dramatic. You sound like your mother. Dr. Reyes asked Mia in a private session what made her feel safe. Mia replied, When I'm not being asked questions. She also noted Mia had developed stress-induced habits, nail-biting to the point of bleeding, recurring stomach aches before scheduled visits with her father. Then Dr. Reyes dropped the bomb. During my final session with Mia, she brought up an incident that neither parent had reported to the court. She described her father locking her in a bedroom for lying about homework and taking away her dinner as punishment. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Travis's attorney jumped up. "We were not informed of this. This is hearsay." "Doctor," Reyes responded firmly. The child described the room layout, the sequence of events, and how she cried herself to sleep. She also described her father later promising her an expensive toy if she forgot about it and didn't tell her mother. The judge didn't even flinch. She turned to Travis. "Did you ever withhold food or confine your daughter as punishment?" He smirked again. "If I did, it was called parenting." And right there, that was it. The judge's voice turned icy. "Mr. Alden, this court is not here to indulge your rhetoric. It is here to protect a child." Dana wept silently. Travis, for the first time, looked nervous. The judge leaned forward and asked, "Dr. Reyes, what is your final recommendation regarding custody?" "Doctor?" Reyes didn't hesitate. "Sole legal and physical custody to Miss Alden. Supervised visitation for Mr. Alden until he completes a court-approved parenting program and undergoes individual therapy for narcissistic behavior patterns." Travis stood up. "This is insane. You're all being manipulated by a woman who plays victim better than she parents." The judge didn't even look at him. She ordered court security to escort him out of the room for the remainder of the hearing. As he was pulled toward the door, Travis screamed, "You'll regret this. You'll all regret this." That was the last time he addressed the court directly. The hearing concluded shortly after. Dana was granted temporary sole custody pending the final ruling, and a follow-up was scheduled to finalize the terms. Outside the courtroom, Dana hugged Dr. Reyes. "You believed her," she whispered. "Doctor," Reyes responded. "I listened to her. Something he never did." But this wasn't the end. Because when a narcissist loses control, they don't walk away quietly. They plot. And Travis had one last card he thought would change everything. Only, it would become the final nail in his coffin. It took less than 72 hours for Travis to start making noise. He filed a motion to appeal the court's temporary custody order, citing judicial bias, emotional manipulation, and, most absurd of all, discrimination against successful men. His motion was rejected before it reached the docket. Sloppy, poorly worded, probably drafted by him alone, since his attorney had quietly filed for withdrawal from the case the day after the last hearing. But Travis didn't stop there. He began emailing court staff, repeatedly, demanding records, threatening complaints, even hinting that he had personal footage of the judge acting unethically. It was complete nonsense, fabricated garbage, but enough to trigger an internal review just to check. Result? The footage didn't exist, and Travis was flagged for harassment of judicial officers. The judge issued a warning through the clerk's office. Any further misconduct and he'd be facing sanctions, or worse. So, he pivoted. He started targeting Dana. Again. But this time, it wasn't just texts or passive-aggressive emails. This time, it was a smear campaign. Dana's school began receiving anonymous emails accusing her of child abuse. Someone left printed flyers in the staff parking, flyers with her picture, taken from the school's website, with the word liar stamped across her face. There were even doctored screenshots of fake tweets where she supposedly admitted to hitting Mia. The police were notified. The school opened an investigation. Dana was placed on administrative leave. And Travis? He denied it all. Even when Dana's lawyer traced one of the flyer print orders back to a self-serve copy center near Travis's apartment, where the security footage clearly showed him standing at the kiosk. His defense? That could be anyone. People use my likeness all the time. The judge was livid. A restraining order was issued on behalf of Dana and the school. Still, it wasn't enough for Travis. Narcissists don't just want to win, they want to destroy. So he made one last move. The move he thought would flip the narrative. He called a press conference. Yes, really. He rented a room at a hotel near downtown, invited a handful of local reporters, and gave a 20-minute monologue about family court corruption, how fathers are villainized by society, and how his daughter was stolen by a vindictive ex with a martyr complex. He even mentioned Dana by name, called her a low IQ manipulator who failed upward into sympathy. But what made this moment go viral? Because yes, it did go viral. Wasn't his rant. It was the moment a reporter stood up and asked, "Mr. Alden, did you write this email?" She read it aloud. It was the now infamous collateral damage email, the one from the court records. Travis froze. The cameras kept rolling. "That's fake," he said. Another reporter followed up. "We've confirmed with court officials that it's in evidence." Are you saying the courts forged your email? He panicked, said something about deep fakes and shadow networks. He walked off the stage sweating, mumbling about lawsuits. That clip was viewed 2.3 million times in 48 hours. Suddenly, the public saw Travis for who he really was. Not a persecuted father, but a narcissist unraveling in real time. Dana, who had remained silent during the entire smear campaign, finally released one short, heartbreaking statement. I stayed quiet to protect my daughter. I won't stay quiet now. To anyone who's been bullied into silence, you are not weak. You are surviving someone else's arrogance. And survival is strength. Support flooded in. Her school reinstated her. The restraining order was extended to cover all digital harassment. And Travis? He disappeared from public view for a few days, until the final court date arrived, where he would be forced to face not only Dana, but someone he thought he'd silenced forever. Someone from before Dana. And this woman would finally tell her story. The final court date arrived under heavy tension. There were more people in the gallery than usual. Law students, reporters, even courthouse staff who had adjusted their lunch breaks just to sit in. Everyone sensed it. This wasn't just the end of a custody trial. This was the conclusion of a very public unraveling. Dana sat quietly with her attorney, her face calm but pale. You could see the toll this had taken: weeks of public smearing, character assassination, and courtroom anxiety. But her posture? Straight as steel. Travis entered alone. No lawyer. He had filed a motion to represent himself, pro se, because no one else understood his vision. That was the phrase he used. Vision. He was dressed like a talk show guest. Too much cologne. Blue suit that sparkled under the fluorescent lights. He gave a smug nod to the judge as if they were about to debate economics instead of determine the fate of a child. The judge opened with final statements. Dana's attorney kept it short. Our case has never been about revenge. It's been about protection. All we ask is that the court prioritize Mia's mental and emotional safety above all else. Then Travis stood. His voice, Your Honor, I've been painted as a villain by biased professionals and a woman who weaponized emotion and society's sympathy for struggling mothers. But I stand here not as a broken man, but as a father who refuses to be erased. The judge didn't respond, just motioned to the clerk. Dana's lawyer stood. Before closing arguments, Your Honor, we have a final witness. Someone Mr. Alden knows well. She contacted our office after seeing Mr. Alden's press conference. Travis's eyes narrowed. A woman entered the courtroom. Early 40s, sharp bob haircut, crisp gray suit. She didn't look angry. She looked prepared. Her name was Lindsay Bellamy. The moment she was sworn in, Travis blurted out, She's irrelevant. This isn't her business. The judge raised a hand. One more outburst and I will clear this courtroom, Mr. Alden. You chose to represent yourself. Behave accordingly. Lindsay took a deep breath and began. I met Travis Alden when I was 22. He was 29. We dated for just under a year. At first, he was charming, generous, brilliant even. He talked circles around everyone. Bosses, waiters, my parents. But 6 months in, things changed. She described how he slowly isolated her from friends, how he used money as control, how he'd gaslight her, make her question things she knew had happened. When she tried to break up with him, he called her workplace every day for a week, spread rumors that she had embezzled funds, even emailed nude photos to her ex-boyfriend's family. There was a collective exhale in the courtroom. Even the bailiff shifted uncomfortably. She continued, I had a breakdown, quit my job, moved states. I never spoke publicly about it until I saw his press conference, until I heard him say Dana was a low IQ manipulator who failed up, and I knew. I couldn't stay silent while he did this to someone else. Dana sat motionless, but her hand was clutching a tissue so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Travis interrupted. She's bitter? She was always unstable. She stalked me for months after I broke up with her. Lindsay turned to the judge and said, I have never contacted him in 15 years. I had to Google to find out he had a daughter. But when I saw how eerily familiar this story sounded, I knew I had to speak. Dana's lawyer submitted 2 affidavits from Lindsay's former co-workers, along with dated emails and medical records from the time of her breakdown. They lined up with every claim. Travis looked rattled. No smugness, no grin, just red in the face, hands clenching the table. The judge asked him if he wanted to cross-examine the witness. He said no. That was the first smart thing he'd done in weeks. The judge asked Lindsay one final question. Why come forward now? She looked directly at Dana. Because I know how it feels to think no one will believe you. And I know how powerful it is when someone finally does. Travis stood. Your Honor, all of this is a coordinated hit job. They're digging up ghosts to assassinate my character because they can't disprove my fitness as a father. The judge asked, "Do you believe parenting is separate from character?" Travis didn't answer. Instead, he said, "This has been a complete farce. And if you side with her, you're no better than the system that coddles mediocrity and vilifies strength." The judge sat still for a long moment, then quietly said, "I will issue my ruling in 48 hours. Court adjourned. Travis stormed out without speaking to anyone. Lindsay walked over to Dana, put a hand on her shoulder, and said, "I'm sorry it took this long." Dana nodded. "Thank you for not letting him win again." 48 hours later, the courtroom was quieter than usual. There were no reporters, no curious onlookers, just the court. Dana, her attorney, a court-appointed liaison for Mia, and Travis, sitting by himself. He wore a plain gray suit this time. No pocket square, no swagger, just a blank, irritated expression that didn't quite hide the twitch in his jaw. The judge entered. Everyone stood. She sat and began to read directly from her ruling. This court has reviewed extensive evidence, written, verbal, psychological, and testimonial. We have heard from professionals, witnesses from both past and present, and most critically, from the child herself. The goal of this court has always been the welfare of Mia Alden. Nothing else. Not image, not ego, not social standing. Travis shifted, like he was preparing for a blow he didn't believe would land. The judge continued. "In these proceedings, Mr. Alden has consistently demonstrated an inability to separate his personal vendettas from the best interests of his daughter. He has engaged in coercion, intimidation, and harassment of his ex-spouse, of court staff, and of his own child." Dana sat perfectly still. No tears this time. No shaking. Just breath held. The judge looked up and delivered the words. "Effective immediately, full legal and physical custody is granted to Miss Dana Alden. Mr. Alden will receive no unsupervised visitation. He may petition for supervised visitation after completing a full psychological evaluation, parenting program, and demonstrating 6 consecutive months of compliance with court-ordered therapy." Travis stood up. "You don't get to do that." The judge calmly responded, "I just did." "You're ruining her life," he yelled, pointing at Dana. "You're rewarding weakness. She's manipulating you. She's manipulating everyone." He turned to the child liaison seated nearby. "I'm her father. You're going to take me away from her like I'm a criminal?" The judge signaled to the bailiff. "Mr. Alden, you're in violation of courtroom conduct. You are now held in contempt." The bailiff began to approach. Travis laughed bitterly and sat back down. "Congratulations," he said under his breath, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You finally turned my daughter into a pawn that worked." Dana didn't react. The judge finalized the ruling with clear, formal language. A copy of the custody schedule was handed to Dana's lawyer. Another was placed in front of Travis, though he didn't look at it. Then came the part that no one expected. The judge added, "One final matter. Based on the misconduct toward Ms. Alden, and in light of the smear campaign targeting both her personally and her employer, this court is referring Mr. Alden to the district attorney's office for review of potential charges related to harassment, stalking, and cyber defamation." The room was silent. Then Travis said, smiling coldly, "You're all sheep." The judge stood. "Court is adjourned." And just like that, it was over. Dana stood in the hallway afterward, holding the official custody order in her hands. She didn't cry. Not at first. She just said, "I can breathe again." But it wasn't really over, not yet. Because even with custody stripped, reputation shattered, and legal trouble looming, Travis still had one last card. And it wasn't in the courtroom. It was outside it, where he didn't need rules, where he could twist things one final time, and in doing so, finally, permanently, destroy himself. A week after the final ruling, Dana received an envelope at her home address. No return address. No postage. Just her name in bold Sharpie. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "You think you've won, but I don't lose. I evolve. Watch what happens next." There was no signature, but she didn't need one. She filed a police report immediately. It was taken seriously. The court had already flagged Travis's behavior as potentially criminal. A patrol car started doing drive-bys near her house. A case file was opened. The restraining order was extended, again. Still, Dana tried to move forward. She returned to work. Mia started therapy full-time. Things slowly began to stabilize. But Travis wasn't done. He knew his image was tarnished. He couldn't go back to the firm. His partners had distanced themselves the moment the ruling came down. He couldn't get new clients. His name was now synonymous with public breakdowns, custody loss, and online toxicity. So he did what narcissists do when they lose control. He built a new reality. He launched a podcast, Fatherhood Under Siege. He positioned himself as the voice of silenced fathers. His first episode? The court stole my daughter. He used a fake name, Trevor Allen, but he spoke in his real voice, showed his real face, told his real story, only twisted. He claimed Dana was a serial liar who faked evidence, that the judge was in bed with feminist advocacy groups, that his daughter had been brainwashed, that his own therapist had warned the court but was ignored. None of it was true. All of it was vile. And worse, it started gaining traction. A few niche men's rights forums picked it up. His clips were shared on TikTok, cut to emotional music, captions like, "Another father destroyed by family court." Strangers began messaging Dana's work account. One even left a voicemail at her school calling her a legal assassin in lipstick. It was happening again. Only this time, not just to Dana, to Mia. Because one of Travis's podcast episodes accidentally revealed the name of Mia's elementary school. It wasn't said outright, but between the background images, a visible mascot in a photo, and some careless bragging, it was enough for online sleuths to connect the dots. Within 48 hours, Mia's school received over 60 harassing emails. Dana pulled her daughter out immediately, filed another police report. But here's the twist Travis didn't see coming. This time, he crossed a line even his new fans couldn't defend. One of the forum mods who had been reposting his content issued a statement. "We support fathers fighting for custody. We do not support doxing children. This guy is not what we stand for." His rage is personal, not paternal. More followed. Support evaporated overnight. The TikToks were deleted. The subreddit removed his clips. And then, the real fallout began. YouTube removed his channel for targeted harassment. His hosting platform dropped the podcast. PayPal froze his donation account. And Reddit banned his IP. Dana's lawyer filed for a permanent protective order on behalf of Mia, and it was granted. But that wasn't the end. Not yet. Because once Travis realized he had lost again, this time on his own turf, he made his final move. He sent an email to Dana, subject line, "Let's end this privately. The body? Meet me. 1 hour. No lawyers. No games. Just you and me. You owe me that much." Attached was a GPS pin, pointing to a coffee shop on the edge of town. Dana forwarded the email to her attorney, who forwarded it to the police. And that decision saved her life. Because when officers arrived at the coffee shop, expecting a confrontation, they didn't find Travis at a table. They found him in his car, armed, gloved, and with rope in the back seat. When officers approached Travis's vehicle in that quiet parking lot, he was sitting in the driver's seat with the engine running, hands on the wheel, eyes forward like he was waiting for a green light that would never come. The moment they knocked on the window, he didn't flinch. They ordered him out. He complied. But when they opened the trunk, what they found wasn't just damning. It was strategic. There were zip ties, a burner phone, a ski mask, a bottle of chloroform, a printed photo of Dana, and on the front passenger seat, a laminated schedule of Mia's school pickup times from months ago, before he'd been barred from contact. There was no more ambiguity, no more misunderstood father narrative. This was a man preparing to do something irreversible. Travis was arrested on the spot for attempted kidnapping, violation of a protective order, and premeditated stalking. When they searched his apartment, they found drafts of messages he never sent. Final statements, rants, even fake suicide notes addressed to Dana, each one blaming her for pushing him too far. Bail was denied. The judge, the same one from the custody case, presided over the arraignment. She didn't hide her fury. "Mr. Alden, this court gave you opportunities to correct your behavior, to participate in a process fairly, to co-parent. You chose manipulation, intimidation, and now violence. You are a danger not only to your ex-wife, but to your own child. You will be held without bond until trial." The trial itself didn't happen right away. Travis tried every delay tactic possible, firing public defenders, filing nonsense motions, claiming he was the victim of a conspiracy, even alleging that the arresting officers were hired actors. None of it worked. And meanwhile, Dana disappeared from public life. She moved, changed jobs. Mia was re-enrolled in a school under a different last name. The house was sold, their location sealed by court, but before she left, she did one last thing. She wrote a victim impact statement, not for court, for Mia, A sealed letter. She gave it to her attorney and asked that it only be delivered to her daughter when she's ready to ask questions. And she would. Someday. Because kids always do. Years passed. The headlines faded. The podcast was forgotten. But Travis? Travis didn't fade. Not in prison. He tried to sue Dana from behind bars, claimed emotional damage, filed handwritten motions written in pencil on torn notebook paper. All were dismissed. His cellmate eventually sold a story to a prison blog about the narcissist in cell block 8 who thought he was too brilliant for the world and ended up folding prison laundry. Fitting. The man who believed everyone else was a piece on his board was reduced to washing socks. And here's the quiet part. The part that no one puts in the viral clips or true crime write-ups. Mia? She grew up kind, curious, guarded, yes, but not broken. When she was 12, she asked her mom if she could write a letter to the judge from back then. Dana asked why. Mia said, "Because I want to say thank you." She listened. Dana smiled and said, "She wasn't the only one." Travis's criminal trial began on a rainy Monday morning. Not poetic rain, gray, miserable, cold. The kind that soaks through your coat and settles in your bones. Dana was there, sitting near the back with her attorney. She looked older than she had at the custody hearing. Thinner, paler, but more resolute. She wasn't here for revenge. She was here for closure. Travis, on the other hand, looked like a man who no longer believed in mirrors. Gone were the polished suits, the gelled hair, the courtroom charisma. He shuffled in wearing an orange jumpsuit, wrists cuffed, jaw clenched tight. His eyes met Dana's only once, and just for a moment. Then he looked away. The charges read aloud by the prosecution were enough to silence even the most hardened jurors. Attempted kidnapping, aggravated stalking, harassment with intent to intimidate, possession of materials in furtherance of a planned felony, violation of a protective order, criminal defamation, pending in a separate case, and although Travis pled not guilty, the evidence was overwhelming. The prosecutor began with the body cam footage. Officers approaching Travis's car, discovering the zip ties, burner phone, and rope. Jurors stiffened as photos of the trunk contents were displayed on screens. One woman in the front row flinched visibly at the chloroform bottle. Dana watched without blinking. Then came the digital forensics team. They had retrieved dozens of deleted documents from Travis's cloud storage, journal entries describing multiple revenge options, audio recordings practicing fake voicemails pretending to be suicidal, even a draft script titled "The Day They Regret Everything." His search history? Chilling. How much chloroform to knock someone out? How long can you survive in a locked car trunk? States with weakest kidnapping charges. Can I sue a judge? How to make it look like an accident? The defense tried to argue mental instability. That Travis had been pushed beyond reason by a biased court, a vengeful ex, a system that crushed fathers. But it didn't land. Not with this jury. Not with this evidence. Then came Lindsay Bellamy, again. She took the stand and looked Travis dead in the eyes. "I warned you," she said. "I warned the court. I warned the internet. And I'll keep warning anyone who will listen. Men like you don't stop until they're stopped." Her voice didn't crack. Her hands didn't shake. She recounted, in devastating detail, the psychological patterns she'd observed in Travis a decade ago and how he hadn't changed, only evolved into something more dangerous. The prosecution rested their case after 5 days. 5 devastating days. Travis, still representing himself, because of course he fired every public defender that challenged him, stood to begin his defense. He looked around the courtroom like a man preparing for a monologue, and then he began. "You all think you see me. You think you figured me out. But what you're really doing is choosing comfort over truth. I am not a criminal. I am the product of a system designed to reward tears over truth, performance over principle. My ex, she knew how to play you all like a violin, and you let her." He gestured to the jury. "You've been conditioned to hate strong men. You've been trained to see leadership as abuse, correction as control, confidence as danger." He turned to the judge. "And you, Your Honor, you'll go down in history as another coward in robes who couldn't handle a real man speaking truth to power." The judge didn't respond. She didn't need to. Her silence crushed him more than any objection ever could. Travis went on for 23 minutes, rambling, shifting blame, quoting obscure philosophers, claiming he was being persecuted for thinking differently. When he was done, no one applauded. No one moved. Even the court stenographer looked exhausted. Court was adjourned for deliberation. 12 jurors filed back into the courtroom with an eerie calm. Not one looked at Travis. Dana gripped the edge of her chair. eyes locked forward, her knuckles white. The judge asked, "Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?" The four-person stood. "We have, Your Honor." In the matter of People versus Travis Alden, a pause, a breath. We find the defendant guilty on all counts. There was no gasp, no reaction from Travis, not even a twitch. But something in the room shifted. Dana exhaled, slowly, fully. For the first time in years, the judge thanked the jury and dismissed them with a nod of profound respect. Then she turned to Travis for sentencing. Her voice was colder than it had been all trial. "Mr. Alden, you had every opportunity to be heard. You chose intimidation, manipulation, and coercion. Not once did you show remorse, not for the emotional harm, not for the public damage, not even for the danger you posed to your own child. Therefore, this court sentences you to 18 years without the possibility of parole. You are remanded into custody immediately." A guard stepped forward. Travis didn't resist, but as he was led out of the courtroom, he looked back, not at Dana, not at the judge, but at the empty jury box, as if he still believed someone in that room would realize he was right all along. No one did, and no one ever would. 3 years later, Dana lives under a new name in a small house near a lake. Her students know her as kind, warm, a bit overprotective. She still double-checks locks at night, but she sleeps. Mia is 15 now. She writes poems, paints her nails different colors every week. She laughs in ways Dana never thought she'd hear again. And she keeps a folded letter in her journal, the one her mother wrote when everything was still uncertain. If you're reading this, you've asked about your father. And I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but I want you to know, he tried to make you small. You were always bigger. He tried to silence us. But you, my girl, are the voice that will never be quiet again. Mia read it once. She didn't cry. She just nodded and kept going.